What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and the broader markets. I'm breaking some updates involving President Trump that helped the market push, and why NIO is doing very, very well after earnings had come out, as we're seeing a lot of optimism about the future. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. Anyways, NIO has been consolidating in this wedge, and so far we formed a wick down here, and we're holding up quite nicely. If we hold above this 6.4 area, we're looking for $7 as our potential targets. NIO's Q2 revenue hit $2.65 billion, up 9% year over year. The vehicle sales are up 62% from Q1, and everything is looking quite solid, at least so far, at least when it comes to those numbers. However, their margins were not as strong. They did improve about only 10%, but that's still not as strong as what they were expecting. And some of their overall profitability measures are not as strong as what we expected. So some things were kind of mixed. Despite that, they were talking about their pre-orders coming out for the ES8 that did very, very well, and the fact that they ended up beating expectations when it comes to their deliveries. So overall, we're looking for a very, very strong end of the year, especially since they're guiding for the third quarter 87,000 to 91,000 units. That's really, really good. That's averaging like around 30,000 units per month, which is very, very cool. Very, very awesome, in my opinion, as we're seeing their overall sales improving. Overall, nice increase when it comes to their earnings. And then when it comes to their sales, we saw about 31,000 vehicles delivered in August. That's also very, very optimistic. If they keep this up, we could be looking for very, very big improvements. And we're going to be looking for a very, very strong September to once again absolutely smash expectations and to do very well. Right now, JP Morgan have upgraded them from a neutral to an overweight rating, and the price-price ratio is going up right here. This tells us that NIO is building some strength. This is all very, very bullish, and as long as you hold above 6.4, I think NIO is going to be pushing for $7. If 6.36 fails us, though, we could be returning back down to $6, but this is still favoring upside in my personal opinion. In fact, the overall market came down quite a bit. It ended up dumping with some negative news that came out about the U.S. Court of Appeals coming out. They have once again, they said that the law that gave President Trump the power to impose tariffs was not necessarily valid. So he didn't really have that power. And they were saying that they wanted to basically put that law into effect. So basically ending President Trump's tariffs by October. But President Trump said that they want to appeal to the Supreme Court. They have until October 14th to do that. And then the market was still dipping with all this tariff uncertainty, with yields going up. But then the market started to bounce when President Trump started giving a speech. He mentioned that they're going to be talking to the Supreme Court. Things are going to be okay. He's very optimistic about the future and his tariffs, and that there's going to be a great victory coming despite that. So President Trump was very optimistic in his speech. The market's now bouncing as a result. I also want to note that on the daily time frame, SPY has this big gap to fill, so I do think we push to fill the gap for like 645, and then we'll see if we turn back down. As of right now, we're still technically more bullish. We're still bouncing off support, so this could be going a bit higher. Then we'll see if we turn back down later or not. On the QQQ, it's the same thing. We're holding our 50 EMA. We could be bounced to try to fill this gap, taking us back up to the low 570s. But then again, we still have this head and shoulders, so even if we bounce a little bit, we could still turn back down later. There could be a temporary bounce coming. For the economic calendar for the U.S. markets, tomorrow is going to be Wednesday. We just have some JOLTS numbers coming out at 10 o'clock a.m. That could cause some volatility. And then we have some retail data coming out on Wednesday. Macy's and Dollar Tree announcing earnings alongside Salesforce and a few more. So I do anticipate the market's going to go a bit higher. I think that NIO might temporarily try to balance, and we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 6.8 and $7. As long as 6.4 does not break, I think $7 is likely coming for NIO, and there is some upside potential for us to get close to 7, as we're holding up very well after earnings and deliveries. So we have a nice wedge here, looking for a breakout towards 7. So overall, we're doing a great job. On SPY, we're looking more bullish. We're looking for an attempt for basically the 645 area, and we'll see if we reject or not. But overall, we have a bearish divergence here. So I'm not saying we're going to run forever. I do think there's going to be downside coming in September, but temporarily, I do see us coming back up to fill this gap. Then eventually, we could still turn back down like this, forming kind of like the head and shoulders like pattern we were talking about. I do think that this is going to try to bounce to fill that gap, and we're going to see a temporary push for like 645 on SPY. Same thing with the QQQ. We could be pushing for the low 570s before we turn back down. We still have a larger head and shoulders, but we might get a temporary push right here to fill this gap, and then we could once again still turn like that. Overall, I do see a temporary bounce coming. Even the Russell's going to likely fill its gap for 236, so look for some temporary upside. ES is getting bought back up around this wedge area, so it could be trying to push back up for essentially um, the 6530 area or above, so right back up to 6500. I'm going to be a little bit more conservative and talk about 64 80 first. I think we push for there first, and we'll see if we end up turning back down afterwards. NQ as well. We could be looking for a pushback up to about 23,500. Then we'll see if you reject. Bitcoin's trying to bounce here, looking for an attempt for 112,500. Tesla dumped quite a bit only to bounce, so I want to see this hold 330. I could see a temporary push for like 336, and we'll see if you reject. Nvidia gap down. I think it's going to be pushed to fill the gap around 175 before it rejects. Apple came down quite a bit, but now it's breaking out, and this is what's leading the market right now. We got some bullish news that came out about their iPhone 17 launch. So I do think that this could be continuing to break out for new highs towards 240. This is pushing in the after hours. We're looking quite bullish. Coinbase might retest 307. Amazon could be looking for that gap for 228, and we'll see if we reject. Meta might be retesting essentially 715. We'll see how it goes after that. Google might also try to bounce just a little bit. It's once again breaking these highs. We got a nice bounce as well because of some news involving the courts. So that's some good news. We could be looking for 215. And now that we're seeing some tech stocks jumping, I'm looking for 511 on Microsoft. So for now, the VIX, although it tried to bounce, we weren't able to get that breakout. We might be coming back down to fill some of these gaps. On the daily time frame and also on the 4-hour time frame, we have some gaps to fill. So I do expect some downside. And I think there's a very, very good chance we pump a lot more, at least for the markets. So overall, I think we're doing well. So give this the time it needs, and we'll have to see what happens after that. For now, we're looking more bullish, and there's a good chance we try to push to fill this gap on SPY. Then we'll see if you reject or not. But as the market tries to bounce, I think NIO could try to follow that trend as long as you don't do 6.4. We're looking for an attempt to push back up towards these highs around 6.8 to 7. I still think we look quite bullish, and we're doing a fantastic job at holding up. So that's my update involving NIO for now. With that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. Earnings went well. We had decent guidance. I think that we're getting closer to profitability. Also, it's very optimistic for me is the fact that when you look at their numbers, NIO achieved 30,000 deliveries in August of 2025. That is a new record, right? They're hitting new records. That's a new deliveries record. And I think we're going to continue to break out. I think this is very awesome news. I can't wait to see what else the future holds. So that being said, let's see NIO continue to build up this momentum. Let's hope we continue to break out. And I once again wish you all nothing but the best. I thank you all so much for listening. Please have an awesome rest of your guys' days. And I'll be back tomorrow with another update about NIO. So far, so good. And hopefully we continue the momentum that we've been building. Thank you for listening, guys. I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow. NIO to the moon because the long term is still very bright despite the short term amounts of volatility. I still think there's a lot of upside potential for the long term. I'm very optimistic for now. Thanks again and peace out.